Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. My name is Corey.
I'm John.
I'm Nick.
And in today's video, we are reviewing the new game, The Fall of Kingdoms. Let's get started. And like I said, in today's video, we're reviewing the new game, The Fall of Kingdoms, which is now being released to backers. It was kickstarted or social media crowdfunded at some point by GameHatch, and we got a review copy from GameHatch. They were nice enough to send us a copy to review here today. And John, do you want to go through explaining how the game works?
Yeah, this is a fairly simple game. Essentially, everyone has a city or domain they're defending, and that, tracks your morale or defense. And then everyone's being given a certain number of role cards based on the players in the game. The objective of the game is to either eliminate everyone's role cards or reduce the defense of their domain to 0. There's multiple ways to do that. There are 7 base actions in the game you can take that perform an action. And then you have the 6 roles, which if you have that role in your active cards, you can take that action, or you can bluff the action. Players lose lives or role cards by getting called out on their bluffs, or by being accused by other players of having the card, which then you have to show and lose that card if you do, and just various other actions. It's very similar to Coup, if you played that before, and kind of just leave it at that for now. The one thing this does add is you do have these destiny cards in the game, and those allow you to take an action to play one of the cards, and they all have like a various action or effect that takes place on the table. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of the game.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like John said, it's like Coup or other social deduction games with just a little bit more meat on the bones. Mm-hmm. So, Nick, do you kind of want to get into what you liked about the game?
Yeah, first of all, one thing that struck me almost immediately is just the artwork overall, the whole presentation of the game, not just the card artwork. I think it's nice that they have asymmetric artwork for each character card, and they could have just easily kept the same for each
definitely
character.
Didn't have to do that.
They definitely didn't have to do that, and the artwork is very evoking. It's very different than what you see in a lot of other hobby games, I guess, to put it simply. And that was one of the first things that took me away with this game. Beyond that, in terms of the gameplay, I really enjoyed how quickly it plays. Everyone's turn, once you understand the rules, which really only took a few minutes to teach everyone, for us playing the first time, you can go through turn after turn relatively quick because you only have so many actions to choose from, and turns go very quickly, which is nice. I really enjoyed kind of the unknown aspect of this whole Destiny deck, because this really adds, you can see that there's tons of cards that you're getting. This really adds a nice added element of surprise to the game. Some of these cards are definitely much stronger than others, and it's kind of a good balancing tool in this game, because one player might have a lot of characters and life left, but if another player has a really strong Destiny card that can help keep the game everyone involved in the game throughout. So,
yeah, definitely. John, what are some of the things you liked?
Yeah, I like just the social deduction aspect, and I think we haven't really gotten a good handle on this because, there's a lot of negotiating that could happen. I don't think we've, gotten into that aspect where we're really bad negotiators, I think there's been a few games where the two people with the least amount of roll cards left or defense probably could have worked out some sort of agreement to not attack each other and, save their money up to attack the person more well-off or well-positioned. But just the deduction of trying, you get to see the roles that are removed from the game and kind of trying to figure out, okay, I know this person's been calling out, like, they have a general to block my attacks over and over again, but the more I'm figuring out, they might have gotten away with a lot of free actions, and now finally you can either hit them with a, call it their bluff, or maybe they overplayed their hand where they've done it so many times now you just accuse them and, you get that general out of play. So just figuring out when to make those well-timed accusations or calling out bluffs is very interesting to me, and figuring that out. Yeah.
What I really liked about it is that it is social deduction on the surface, but there is enough meat to the bones that makes it feel different. So at the start of the game, I don't know if we really went through this, but you only start with 2 character cards that you get to do abilities with. And like John said, you can bluff those abilities as well. And then you start with 2 face-down characters underneath your domain board, and those will come into play as more of your characters are killed off. So it's cool trying to like suss out who has what or bluff or call out other people's bluffs, but it's also neat with a multi-factor way of either losing or winning the game as well. Building up your defense at certain points if people are attacking your kingdom to try to get your defense down. Or also the morale track is really cool as well. You might want to gain more morale because at the beginning of every one of your turns you get income based on the level of your morale. So I like the different levers that you can push and pull throughout the game, and not just simply, oh, I have this, so I'm going to attack you. Are you going to try to defend it or block? There are multiple things you can do on your turn with that. And then also the varying cost and the coin play in this is really cool as well. Having that currency system to be able to do different actions with, because at a certain point in the game, if you're not generating enough morale for that income, you might not be able to afford some of those best actions. So really like the variability in that.
Yeah. One thing, too, that I want to mention is the fact that there's a lot of different actions you can do in this game, from interest, which is just gaining a coin, through to accusing players, to building up your defenses, to just doing what they call a kingdom attack, which is just paying to attack. Plus, then you have 6 different character abilities, which are, in essence, then 6 more actions, because each character has a very unique action. And I feel that we pretty much we're doing all of those actions. Like, it's not like, oh, there's only one action, there's only a handful of actions. No, like, all the character actions are very useful and situational and powerful, and then all this, the basic actions that you have at your disposal also have their time and place. Yep. So I thought that's a sign of a well-designed game, is to have a bunch of action.
Purpose.
Yeah, and I also like, talking about the character actions, and I think Coup had this system as well, but depending on the different roles, certain roles block actions from other roles if they're taken against you, and that comes into play with the bluffing aspect, because you can bluff an attack and you can bluff on a defense, and it's really up to those players to call it out, and it makes things a lot more interesting. And sometimes maybe you just let it stalemate and think you've gained some information, but you still don't know, are they bluffing, are they not? Maybe you see them do it a few times, and maybe they're bluffing, really good at bluffing, and got it back to back, and no one called them out on it. Or maybe they really have that card. So a lot at play.
And the calling out isn't too detrimental either. It's not going to be game breaking if you call out somebody and, they actually do have it. It's not like you're just out of the game at that point. Minor negative effect.
You lose one of your rolls, or when you do an accuse, that's your safest bet. It's a lot of money, but you just accuse someone, and if you're right, you gain a morale to gain more income, or just nothing happens.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Other than that they don't have that roll card.
Yeah. So the game, the ebbs and flows of the game, it's very solid. It flows very well. It's very easy to play. Definitely an easy enough game to learn. But I will say, I guess, getting into cons a little bit with my first con is that it's not an entry-level party game by all means. It was easy enough for us to learn and to grasp and to understand, but this isn't one that you can necessarily bring to every party situation. It's going to be a little bit too much meat on the bones for a lot of players out there, so you just have to know that getting into it, that this game isn't a surface level game. There is a little bit more depth to it, and we haven't even broken into the expansion content at all. Base game itself, there is quite a few moving parts, but if you are a seasoned gamer, it's not going to be too much for you to handle.
And this is a minor con, and this is going to be true also for like any social deduction game, but like the first time anyone plays this, the bluffing aspect's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have that full understanding in your mind of, this counters this, other than looking it up every time, and it's hard to bluff when you're going to your sheet and be like, the general blocks this. It's like, do you actually have the general, and now you've just like looked up what it did instead of like 5 minutes ago when you looked up what the general did?
Right.
Or did you just look up because that's your last ditch effort? But like I said, minor con, any social deduction game is going to have that issue until folks have played a round or two and get more acclimated with the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to piggyback off that keeping track of which characters defend against which different character actions is definitely something you're going to be referencing a lot for the first several playthroughs, probably because we've played a few times and I'm definitely still dependent on the reference card. And that being said, definitely a pro of this game is they do have a nice reference card for each player, so it's very easy to quickly reference everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that then impacts your level of strategy and gameplay. Is if it's not second nature to you on what defends what, you're just going to be kind of maybe missing important details that an experienced player would maybe pick up on because they're very well.
And I will say that's like one thing that is essentially a pro for me is you could be really bad at this game and not even understand what's going on or do things correctly. But if you understood the counters to every card without looking at your reference sheet, you could be a very convincing player throughout the whole game with your bluffing or not bluffing, which I like. It's,
There's a high ceiling of this game in terms of this level of strategy you could be implementing.
If you play with the same group multiple times, this could get very, very good at that part of it because everybody's going to know what everything else does. I will say that we have played the game a few times at 4 players and a few times at 3 players. From other content or other reviews we've seen online, we've heard that it might not play as well at a higher player count. We're hoping that some of the expansion content takes care of that from what we've seen on the back of the boxes here. But just know that we've really enjoyed it at 3 or 4 players. It just might get bogged down or be a little bit too random at a higher player count. We don't know yet. Can't really speak to that. But looking at the back of the box here, it plays 2 to 7 players in 20 to 40 minutes. So it's a very fast-playing game. For a more party game or a more social deduction, you're typically looking for that higher player count. You're going to get 5, 6, 7 people to the table. So I'm really hoping that what we've read online isn't true with the higher player count, or that some of this content does fix that. But just know that we have played it at 3, 4 players, and it plays very smooth at that. So I could see that as being a potential con at a higher player count, unless some things are tweaked with other content here. So any other cons for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say on the flip side, though, a lot of times when you have those higher player count, we'll call quote-unquote party games, you feel that you're missing out on a lot if you ever were to even bother trying them at 3 to 4 players. And between 3 and 4 players, I still felt the gameplay was just was satisfying. I didn't feel like, I wish there was a 5th or 6th player. Definitely interested in trying at the higher player counts, but by no means is this party game something that's going to not be very fun at the 3 to 4 players. So just want to make sure that's clear.
John, did you want to touch on any of the expansion content on what we've read on what that might add?
Yeah, just things we haven't opened yet. So to be clear, the only thing we've added to this is the first set of Destiny cards, which provided some very powerful effects into the Destiny deck. Very simple. That's why we did it. Some things that can be added are the asymmetrical rule guides that you can give to the different players. Kind of varies things up with, I'm actually not even sure what it does. We haven't opened it. We're saving it as a surprise. But we can only assume, based on the size of the cards in here, they might be new reference type cards that alter some of the actions maybe. And then you have the World of Crisis. This adds Arena and Crisis cards. And just from, again, we haven't opened it, but just from the little teaser on the back, it sounds like there is motivation to team up or betray other players based on the content in here. Sounds very intriguing. And then you have the Call of the Define. And this adds Protection Boon or Wild cards to shape your fate. And again, not opened, but from what we're reading, it sounds like these cards can really either grant boons, because that's what they're called, like make your actions more powerful or introduce elements of chaos into the game, or cards that protect you and keep you alive and in the game. So looks really promising, looks really cool. Maybe updates to our review once we get these open and played. But yeah, really looking forward to trying these out.
And then we also incorporated these metal coins that were made specifically as a separate add-on for this game, and we're thankful to receive these. But the normal currency for the game are also pretty, what we feel, well-designed, thick kind of plastic tokens. So that's one other added element.
Yeah. Again, the component quality is fantastic, top-notch. The production of it all is fantastic. So definitely kudos to Game Hatch for that. Rolling into our final opinions of the game here so far. Like John said, we're going to come up with other content in the future, a gameplay playthrough video, as well as opening some of this expansion content. We definitely hope to dive into this game more. But let's start with John on this one. Final impressions.
I think right now I'm going to go with a solid 8. I like how this plays, and I know it's not necessarily a true party game, but I feel if you are playing at the higher player counts with a larger group, you're actually going to feel more involved in the game versus, say, a game like The Resistance. I feel like while that is a chaotic, fun party game, you can get sidelined pretty hard in that game and basically feel like you're not even playing.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you're going to have a turn. You're going to be able to do things until you are eliminated. So I really like that. I like how it is really built off kind of the coup system with the actions and the bluffing. I like the addition of the Destiny deck, really cool cards in there, and then just the overall strategy and the future potential from all these add-ons. So
Yeah.
8 for now, with the possibility of this rising higher.
Cool. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, I would say definitely between a 7 and 8 for me. Just more because this genre of game isn't necessarily something that I would normally play for fun compared to more higher, like I'd say more strategy type of games. But with that said, the reason why I'm still interested in playing it more is because I really appreciate a lot of things I already talked about. First of all, the pace of play. You're not waiting around for other people's turns very long. Everyone plays pretty quickly. Also, you're always engaged even when it's not your turn. You're always interested to see what the other players are
Right,
doing.
you're trying to glean that information based off what everyone's doing, what things are being called out, protected against. Yep.
So I'm almost sometimes more interested to see someone else, another player take their turn than take my own turn.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I like social deduction games too, or other types of social deduction games, but sometimes, as John maybe was alluding to, those can get sidetracked with lots of debating and discussion. This game kind of forces you to play relatively quick because you take the one action, you're done. There's not really a need for a ton of discussion on any player's turn, but there's that by no means minimizes the amount of the bluffing that you're doing in this game. So I really think that works well in that there's still a lot of reason to have table talk and kind of question what everyone's doing, but there's never like a need for a long 5-10 minute debate about anything because of the way the game's designed, and it keeps the game flowing. So yep.
So you say 7.5 for you?
Yes, we'll say that.
Okay. This was a tough one for me because I'm on both sides of the coin, essentially, with games like this, where I love social deduction. I really like games like The Resistance, like very stripped down versions of party, yell at each other, call each other out type games. And when it comes to a game similar to this, Coup, I give that game like a 3 out of 10. Never wanted to play it again. It's not a bad game on the surface, but it's just one I never want to come back to. Where with this one, I was pleasantly surprised. It did what Coup did essentially, but a lot better. So I'm coming in on an 8 out of 10 as well. This was a very surprise hit for me, one that I can see bringing to other, to the table for other gamers as well. Definitely not one I'm going to introduce to like muggles, essentially, family members who don't play very often, but definitely a next step up. So if you were turned off by the Coup or by social deduction games where there's too many elements going on, I think this one scratches a different itch, and that's what I was surprised with. Like we said too, the component quality, the gameplay is smooth, everything else, the production is great, it looks great on the table, and there's nothing really too wrong with it other than the higher player counts. Like we said, we haven't played, could put a wrinkle in that for me, but I'm hoping that some of this other content helps change it enough to where it's not just ganging up on one or two people the whole time, and that's all it is. It essentially boils down to. So 8 out of 10 for me, pleasantly surprised, and that is The Fall of Kingdoms. So until next time, you all have a great day and have fun gaming.